In 1959, a company by the name of Digital Equipment Corporation started production on their newest mini-computer dubbed the PDP-1. This newfound technology birthed one of the first known video games, Space War. The premise of the game, I have no fucking clue. Two ships shooting at each other. That's all I can see. Come 13 years later in 1972, Stanford University is the host of a new game competition for Space War, where the winner receives a year-long subscription for the Rolling Stone magazine. Some might say this is the first video game competition ever held, but the first major event took place in 1980. The Space Invaders Championship was hosted by Atari, and tens of thousands of people across the United States attended the event. This event brought out the competitive edge of gaming and established it to be at the same echelon as its other sporting counterparts. Street Fighter had Daigo, CSGO had Simple, Faker, a professional League of Legends player, had made over $1.8 million throughout his esports career. Sure, he's no LeBron, but I think he'd be sick if I could make millions off of playing League. Not the last part, but seeing videos online of all these top players making history at these events made me wonder if maybe I could do the same. Hell no, it's not even close. My dad is a pretty cool dude, I would say. He owned a bunch of different game consoles like the Wii and Wii U, PS2, and a whole lot of handhelds. He introduced my brothers and I to a bunch of different games, and usually we'd watch TV during dinner time, but sometimes he put on One Piece, and that's how I got up to Dressrosa. Not because I wanted to, but because of my dad. Another note is that he was a fighting game player. Growing up, I remember duking it out on the sticks to some Ultimate Ninja 4 and Smash Bros. Brawl, but one of my most fondest memories of him though was when he introduced me to one of my most favorite game franchises of all time, and more specifically my favorite game of all time, Tekken Tag Tournament. When I first saw the intro of this game, I was encapsulated by what it had to offer. This CG animated intro coupled with the amazing electronic music in the background enticed me to the point where I made this game my whole personality, but I was never the best at fighting games. Whenever we'd play, I'd always get beat senseless by my dad and my brother. No matter the game we played, if it was a fighting game, I would always be beat, and I can't lie, I was kind of a sore loser back then. I never strove to be better after the fact. I would always move on to a different non-fighting game, a game that I would have fun in where there was no beef between siblings, something akin to a Mario Galaxy or the thousands of Lego games we owned. Fast forward to high school, I was fairly new to the area because I had moved, and I met a friend on either the second or third day, I can't remember. He had wanted to introduce me to his friend group, and this friend group, which he had known since elementary, often played games together including Roblox, War Thunder, and a small game called... At the time, the only other first-person shooter game that I had played was Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and Overwatch, before it got bad. Another thing, I didn't own a PC at the time. The group had predominantly played on PC, and I was mainly a console player, but my friends convinced me to get the game because it was on sale at the time, and so I did. I ended up playing on my older brother's PC before I went and begged my mom for my own. I loved playing this game. I ended up making videos with my friends playing the game.
This map where I almost got a... What's it? An ace, yeah.
Nice to know.
I know it is.
And this is the first game where I decided to touch the mode ranked. If we look at the first instance of my peak rank, we can see that I was a jaw-dropping silver 5 in Shifting Tides. And if we look up how old Shifting Tides is, it's... Keep in mind, this is probably the first time I'd ever used a mouse and keyboard to play shooter games. This was my first introduction to the high adrenaline, heart-racing gameplay that is ranked, and I was hooked. Around the same time, we were introduced to Valorant, and it was all the same. I went back to that competitive mindset, the grind if you will, watching whatever I can to improve, pro players, tips and tricks, whatever it took to get me to the top rank. We would always say last game, but it was never the last game. Play till we lose, and then we'd lose the game after, but it was never addicting. Why would it ever become an addiction at this point? Tekken 8 was right around the corner, and I decided to install the previous entry to get a little practice on my skills. See, I took a break from fighting games to focus more on FPS titles like Valorant and Siege. I hadn't thought of Tekken for a while, even if it was my favorite game franchise. I decided since the new game in the franchise was coming out, I wanted to become better at fighting games. And so I went through with it. I ended up hitting a decent rank, Kishin, which is better than I initially thought, but as I was grinding through the ranks, I felt something was off. I was never this angry playing a video game before. Last time I was this salty was when I was a kid playing with my dad and brother. I ended up realizing the game that I thought was my favorite felt like a chore every time I played it. The longer I played, the faster I'd burn out. My highs were not as fulfilling and my lows were definitely low. The high-octane, fast-paced games weren't helping at all either. Any relaxing game I played after, like Stardew or Minecraft, just felt too long and drawn out. I could never play those types of games for more than 15 minutes without feeling a hint of boredom. And I joined a community on Discord, and all they would talk about are games that they used to play as a kid. Those story games, games where only you get to experience it. No multiplayer or any kind of rank to grind. I just felt out of place. That is until I played Okay. Hear me out though. Persona 3 Reload, an anime-style JRPG, a game where, if you know JRPGs, it is definitely gonna be long and drawn out. A repetitive turn-based combat system with tedious amounts of dialogue, and the fact that I had no other experience with RPGs in general before. Why the hell would I spend $100 on a game that I have no trust in playing consistently? I have no clue, I'm gonna be honest. Even now, I still question why I got this game, knowing that I would have never played it if it weren't for the amazing story. The game leads you through this emotional roller coaster filled with amazingly written characters you'll love. I give it 5 booms. For real though, I kind of forgot what the story was about like 8 months after I played the game. I just remember this robot and this bench. When I first played through the game, it was just a long hour and a half of building the story and the introduction of different characters. I was contemplating on refunding the game, but I wanted to keep going. This is where I want to give a special shout out to Goonstar. Before I even got the game, I came across his Persona 3 clips doom scrolling on TikTok, and those clips made me want to buy Persona 3 in the first place. I was also nearing the end of the 2-hour refund policy, and I thought I might as well go through with it after spending so much time and money on it. Unknowingly, that would be the greatest decision I would ever make in my entire life. Though I forgot about the story 8 months later, I was truly immersed by it at the time. The style of gameplay was one I wasn't a fan of, but the side stories with the various characters and the social link mechanic was interesting enough for me to continue playing, and it kept me in with their compelling voice acting. Normally seeing walls of text will put me off, especially due to my lack of an attention span, but if the game were to have tolerable voice acting, I'd keep playing the game.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Yeah, okay dude. But most importantly, it got me out of that stump with competitive games. Persona 3 Reload felt like a breath of fresh air after all of those hours on Valorant and Tekken. And it taught me that games could be so much more than games. They are filled with stories out front and center, and not just something you could look into on the side while your teammates throw your entire game. I'm honestly shocked it took me this long to have realized this. I was aware of these types of games before, but I was so focused on trying to get a better rank that I never truly sat down and took a break from it. In other words, ranked gaming ruined my love for video games, and I'm glad that Persona 3 Reload was the one to bring me back to somewhat decent taste. I plan on expanding my palette even further. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV as of late, and I recently bought the Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC, and I can't wait to experience these stories for myself and see why it is such a classic. Hey, what's this new Marvel Rivals coming out?